any questions or comments on those minutes? If not, could I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Sean Shook, second by Carol Cato, to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Union-Thurston Board of Education on June 8th, a special meeting on June 22nd, and an emergency meeting held on June 30th as printed. Ms. Moyer?
Ms. Cato?
Yes.
Mr. Hookrunner?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Shook?
Yes.
Dr. Walden?
Yes. Monthly financial statements. Ms. Moyer?
Alright, you have a reconciliation. And our monthly financial report. So on page 3, we did confirm that that our reduction in revenue in the foundation is gonna remain the same as it was at the last quarter. And that's exactly how we forecasted it for the 5-year forecast, so that was what we planned. On page 4, the revenue was down, and expenditures were up.
Hey Marcus, you need to mute your,
I got him.
okay. Thank you.
But our cash balance is up. And then on page 5, as I mentioned, the revenue was up for the year, which we're really fortunate on that. And page 6, our expenditures are a lot higher than last year. And most of the increase had been planned, we brought it to you. A lot of it was due to the COVID purchases being purchased early to make sure we were able to get a lot of the supplies. And we ordered our laptops for this year with last year's budget money to make sure we would get those in time also. And then page 8 is the interest. And, Park National Bank, the money market, we received $790.83. That was for 1 month and a few days. And, that's those are the funds that we transferred out of Huntington. And in Huntington, for 2 months, we only received $86.99. So it definitely was the best way to go with that. And then you have our monthly budget review, which we're done, so everything's right at about 100%.
Have we heard anything from the state on, next year's, funding? What they're
Well, that's
planning on
what I was
doing?
saying, that, they did confirm that it would stay at the levels that we were at during our last quarter, the money that they took from us.
Mhm.
That's where we'll stay at, and that's what we forecasted too, so.
Do we know if the federal will do what they did last quarter where they gave some money?
Well, they gave us the COVID money,
Mhm.
which actually starts, July 1st,
Okay,
and it's good for our two fiscal school years.
okay.
So it's right about 186,000.
Okay. So it does not make up for the amount we lost from the state though, correct?
No,
Okay,
but at least it's better than nothing.
absolutely.
And we can hope that they decide to give us more. Then we had the bills that were paid. On page 1, 94824, BSN Sports, for $22,113. That was for 2 soccer shelters, and that came from our building fund. Down a little further, 94830, to Firefly Computers for $62,650. So if you look at the columns, right after the dollar amount, there's a W, which means it's a warrant check, just our regular checks going out. Next to that is a V, and that means it was voided. So that check was voided because we, had to make some coding changes, and then she reissued it, and it's down a little further, 94841, for the same amount of money, and that was for the Chromebooks, the ones that we purchased at the end of the year for this current year. And of that, $7,842.33 came out of the, Title IV grant, and the balance came from the general fund. Page 2, 94858 to Heimberger paving, that was the elementary school, middle school and district office paving for patchwork, and it came out of our, roof and parking lot fund improvement, capital projects. We still have one more payment, and we're waiting for them to, make some other repairs. Down a little further, 94879 was to Madison Shook for $1,926, and that was tuition reimbursement, and that came from the general fund. Then 94884 to Ashland University for $47,634, and that was, tuition for the gifted endorsement for the cohort that we're doing, and that was general fund. And 94903 to Source One Supply for $6,055. And that was for hand sanitizer and, the dispensers from the general fund and due to COVID. And page 3, 94933 to the Village of Baltimore for $25,294.66, and that was for a resource officer from January to June from the general fund. And down a little further, 94945 to Feeney Industrial Roofing for $8,940, and that's for the elementary school, middle school, high school roof evaluations, and that came from the general fund. Then we have our appropriations for the 018, 200s and 300s. And the donations, $48 from Giant Eagle for apples for students to the elementary principal, $33.74 to from Kroger Rewards to high school volleyball, $78.98 Kroger Rewards to high school yearbook, $14.65 Kroger Rewards to Ohio Model UN, which then goes to the high school principal. $578.05 Kroger Rewards to middle school principal, and $18 Giant Eagle apples for students to the middle school principal. And then, one more thing, I gave everybody a copy of, AEP Ohio Recognized Liberty Union. That was a project that Joe did. You should see that. That's what I thought.
Any other questions for people? If not, I have two motions there. The first one excludes check 94879. Could I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Alright, I'm gonna say Carol Cato and Sean Cookrattle to approve monthly financial items as stated above with the exclusion of check 94879 to Madison Shook in the amount of $1,926. Ms. Boyer?
Mr. Hookrattle?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Shook?
Yes.
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
Ms. Cato? Yes.
Okay, then the second motion would be to approve check 94879 to Madison Shook in the amount of $1,926.
So moved.
Second.
Bill Moore, seconded by Carol Cato to approve that. Ms. Boyer?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Shook?
Abstain?
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
Ms. Cato? Yes. Mr. Hookrattle?
Yes.
Number 5, new business financial appropriations. The treasurer, April Boyer, recommends approval of the 2021 permanent appropriations. That is A. B is transfer funds. The treasurer, Ms. April Boyer, requests a transfer fund from 590 to Fund 572 as necessary throughout the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Dr. Mike Johnson, Superintendent, recommends approval. Item C, change fund authorization, approval to establish change funds for the 2020-2021 21 school year is requested, and the amounts are specified there. Recommend approval. D, permission to sell smart boards. The technology coordinator and the superintendent asked permission to sell 7 smart boards at a price of $250 each. This does not include software, but does include pen, tray, and pens. Projectors will not be included. Most of them are not worth anything really. Recommend approval. E, resolution approving invoice payment. Treasurer April Boyer recommends approval of the following for ORC 5705-41D1. For approve a payment invoice number dated 7/1/20 in the amount of $3,670 to Iowa Schools Council. F, establish school meal prices. Jan Frederick, food service supervisor, recommends approval of the following meal prices for 2020-2021. Breakfast would be district-wide at $1.25, lunch at the elementary building at $2.60, lunch at middle school and high school at $2.85, and milk at 50 cents. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion by Sean Shook, seconded by Carol Cato to approve the new business financial items as listed. Does anybody have any questions on those? Or April, did you wanna just say anything on the?
The appropriations are just the normal, we're getting everything straightened out for the new year. The transfer fund, that's where, the money comes into separate funds, and then I have to transfer it because we pool our Title I and Title II money together. And I then have to transfer it all to the Title I, so we can spend it.
Did we, the change fund authorization, item C, are those funds remain constant? Are those the same amounts as they have?
Yes.
Okay.
And I figured until we actually are going to have games or something, there's no reason to write the check, but I just wanted to have it approved, so when we needed it, we could.
Same question on the school meal prices, do those remain constant to the prior year?
No, those increase.
I think that
Increase a little bit.
Yeah.
Jan always gets stuck having to
Yeah.
increase it to meet the federal.
Yeah, minimum, right,
Yeah,
right.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Alright, if not, Ms. Boyer?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
Ms. Cato? Yes. Mr. Hooker?
Yes.
Item 6, new business personnel, resignations. Ms. Jody Lucas, elementary school intervention specialist, has submitted her resignation effective August 1st, 2020. Recommend approval. Number 2, Ms. Megan Riffle, our teacher, has submitted her resignation. Recommend approval. Is there an effective date on that, or is that, do we need to have an effective date on that, or
Today would be good.
is it?
Yeah, that's what you said, you wanted it to be
Okay.
today.
Three, Ms. Abigail McMillan, assistant treasurer, has submitted her resignation effective July 31st, 2020. Recommend approval. And that was that letter that I sent around with, just an appreciative response from her to everybody, so I think everybody got a chance to read that. B, employee personnel. The superintendent recommends approval to hire the following personnel. Kirsten Burnett, elementary and middle school art teacher, 1 year for 2020-2021, bachelor's at step 0, starting date August 7th, 2020. Number 2, Brandon Compton, second grade, 1 year, 2020-2021, bachelor's at step 1, starting date August 7th. 3, Haley Thompson, sixth grade, ELA, 1 year, 2020-2021, bachelor's at step 0, starting date August 7th. C, reassigned personnel. The superintendent recommends the following candidate for school bus driver named Cassie Watson, position bus driver at step 0, starting date July 2020. D, change in contract. The following employee is recommended for a continuing contract. Courtney Berry, masters, new continuing, step 13. E, extended days. The following personnel are recommended for extended days as printed. F, supplemental positions / contracts. The following personnel are recommended by the superintendent. I won't read through all those, but we can discuss anything. G, classified substitute list. The superintendent requested approval of July 2020 classified substitute list with the addition of the following names, effective July 6, 2020. All right. Any questions on any of the new business personnel?
Did you wanna discuss?
Yeah, no, that was,
Okay.
we were gonna discuss the, cause we did have some questions regarding the, extended days for the BOAG advisors.
Yeah, I've recommended 30 days, mostly out of, planning ahead, and may not need all these days that were originally, because originally we have 50, and there's already some cancellations that are coming up. You know, as they're used and as we get back to normal, whenever that is, well, we can review those days again and see if they're adequate in number.
Anybody have any other questions?
No, I've got no concerns with that.
Alright, could I have a motion for the new business?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sean Hookrattle, second by Bill Moore to approve the new business personnel items as listed above. Ms. Boyer?
Mr. Schiff,
Yes.
Dr. Walter,
Yes.
Ms. Cato? Yes. Mr. Hookrat?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Item 7, new business personnel classified substitute list. The superintendent requests approval for the July 2020 classified substitute list with the addition of the following names effective July 6th. Julie Wolver, address, phone number, and food service as a substitute. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Motion by Carol Cato, second by Bill Moore to approve the new business personnel item as stated above. Ms. Boyer?
Mr. Schiff,
Yes.
Dr. Walter,
Abstain?
Ms. Cato? Yes. Mr. Hookrat?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
8, new business other, remote learning resolutions with 5-year technology strategic plan and plan for remote learning. The Superintendent, Dr. Mike Johnson, recommends approval. We'll read through all of that. That was A. B is resolution to reopen the schools. Superintendent Dr. Mike Johnson recommends and requests approval of the following reset, restart, reopen plan.
I do have a revision of the plan that I sent to you today, so whatever's in that recommendation should be placed in here rather than the one that's
The
in
new
here.
one, okay.
And we can help Alice cut and paste that.
We've got our, we'll come back, yeah, cause I imagine we're gonna have a discussion on that, so we'll just, yeah. C is policy updates. We've got policy B, CCC assistant treasurer job description. We've got family and medical leave act expansion. We've got family and medical leave act expansion. And then another, yeah, so that was GBRAR, this is GBRAA, again, Family Medical Leave Act extension. GBRAAR, emergency paid sick leave, and then GCN-1, AFC-1, evaluation of professional staff. And I think that puts us through there, and then we've also got school year calendar. The superintendent, Mike Johnson, is recommending approval of the attached 2020-2021 school calendar. There is a change in there in, I think the ones that we have originally, that's the one where it says August 12th, student first day, that will be for all students, I think it's specified differently in the original agenda.
Correct.
E is handbooks. The superintendent and building principals recommend approval of the following handbooks: middle school staff and student staff handbook. F, student fees. The superintendent and building principal recommend approval of the following fees: elementary fees is outlined, middle school fees is outlined. And G, agreement with Ohio University. Superintendent Dr. Mike Johnson recommends approval. This is for the College Credit Plus. All right, I think that was all of the new business. All right, anybody have questions on any of those?
No,
And
not
otherwise, we wanna go to discussion
obviously,
on,
other than
yeah.
having a discussion on
Discussion on,
resolution
right.
reopen, yes,
Yeah.
but as far as the policies, yeah.
They are what they are.
Yeah, they are what they are for most, yeah.
Well, Dr. Johnson, I guess, we'll let you start.
Okay.
With your,
Okay, so, tried to start this process several months ago, and, we came up with a color coding system before the state came out with theirs.
Right.
And, in that color coding system, we were trying to describe, fully reopened as a green level. Half the students at a time would be,
Mike, I'm gonna, how's our sound? I was just getting a message that people are having trouble hearing on.
On which one, on YouTube or the?
This says Facebook, I don't know if they're getting, what they're watching.
Oh, and
I
they're
don't know if
probably
they're watching
getting
on
it from
Facebook.
someone and.
Yeah, they're probably getting it, yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing we can
I would
control
suggest they go
Facebook.
right to the YouTube link.
Go right to the YouTube link, okay.
Yep.
It's posted right at the top of our website. The very first announcement is the link.
Okay.
to the-
Yep.
yeah, so we can say that, cause there's, several people watching.
Yeah.
So go to our website, and the very top link is a YouTube link. Click on the YouTube link if you can't hear us, and the meeting should be much clearer directly off the YouTube link. Yellow, if we need, they come in, half time, half the kids, accommodate the 6-foot distancing and some other things that might be there. And red, was,
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, I just got a text that they can't hear on YouTube, must be pretty soft.
I just saw that the connection dropped and came back,
Okay,
so maybe that had something to do with it.
okay, so
But
the
it wasn't
connection's
down long
back,
enough for me to actually investigate it. It popped right back up.
okay.
should I try again?
Yes, and if you could maybe turn that way, Dr. Johnson, it
Okay.
appears as if the
All right.
audience is having a
But
tough time
it's that,
hearing you.
it's that one there.
It's this one over here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right, so, excuse my back.
It's alright.
Yeah. So green levels, fully back with medical conditions to support it, antivirus, vaccines, that kind of thing. Originally, then we talked about yellow levels, we're, given the 6-foot social distancing as we were originally planning, puts our capacity, on buses and in classrooms at about 50%. And then, there was a red level if conditions, were such that we would go to school, remotely. We ended the year remotely, and, now trying to figure out how to, come back to school. If you go to, the second page, we're referencing, now, a different color coding system that was issued by the state of Ohio, and it's the Ohio Public Health Advisory System. I think if you were to Google those words, you'd come up with the site. But they're using color coding as well, and because of that, I've revised this report, you'll see later, and not using the red, green, yellow to talk about the levels of coming back to school. How we doing over there? Yeah.
You must be doing well, I'm not getting.
Yeah,
any-
I got that we're
Yeah,
good.
got it much better.
Okay, got it, okay. Under their setting, so we're not going to refer to our back-to-school plan as we originally did with colors. We're gonna talk about how we changed that in a minute. But we are going to, obviously rely upon the Ohio Public Health Advisory System colors, which, indicates that yellow, and we've been presented in the media and otherwise, a map of Ohio with all the counties in it. And, in that, they've overlaid colors, and some of the counties in Ohio are at yellow, they remain at yellow. The growing number, at yellow, public emergency announcement that there is an active exposure and the spread of COVID-19 in the county. I'm referring to Fairfield County always because, and that makes it relevant to us. An orange level is a public emergency announcement that there is increased exposure and spread of COVID-19, and that we all should exercise a high degree of caution in our school district if we're in that county. Red is level 3, and the public emergency announcement that there's a very high exposure and spread of COVID-19, and to limit activities as much as possible in the county and as it relates to the school district. Purple is level 4, is a public emergency announcement that there is a severe exposure and spread of COVID-19, and to only leave home for supplies and services in Fairfield County. So using those codes, we need to keep those in mind later. So, as a school district, we're translating the green, yellow, and red to tiers so that we're not confused by the double use of color, right? So now, tier 1 is equivalent to green, our original report, and it would, this would mean that we're fully open at tier 1 with all safety protocol restrictions or accommodations being followed to address the spread of COVID-19. It is thought that this level can only be achieved if aggressive steps are taken to manage and control the spread of COVID-19 combined with widely administered testing for immunity and virus. I revised this from the original report because in the original report I said until there is a vaccine. So I've taken that out. However, we do need to, even at this level, be very aggressive about taking care of children and staff and others that may come in the building. That's tier 1, which was green. Tier 2 defined, which was yellow. School would be partially open under tier 2. Under tier 2, about half the district students would attend school on any given day. I'm recommending that that tier 2 operations of school be declared and implemented when the county risk level alert is at level 1 yellow. Okay. So partially. Then tier 2 is our old red, but
Tier 3?
tier 3, thank you everybody. Tier 3 would be to close the school to students and district. We would support their teaching and learning with the district's remote learning plan. The school district will operate under tier 3 when the spread or evidence of the virus is at a sufficiently high level to cause the school to be closed to the students. The superintendent is recommending that tier 3 operation of the school district be declared and implemented when the county risk alert is at level 2 orange, increased exposure and spread, level 3 red, very high exposure and spread, or level 4 purple, severe exposure and spread. The report goes on to talk about options. So we did provide some options for our public and our teachers to react to. And those options were, we were going to go to school accommodating half the enrollment. And half the students would attend elementary, middle, and high school on Monday and Tuesday. This is option A, supported with distance learning, and the remainder of the days that those students are in school, they'll be at home, and they'll be supported with our distance learning plan. Then Wednesday is off for the teachers to support distance learning and their own planning, because there's going to be a high need from our teachers to support that distance learning under this plan. And then we would then support learning for the other half of the kids on Thursday and Friday. And we're still working out how we're going to determine which half of the kids. We'll be doing a survey in the future, probably in the very near future, to get some information back from our families and parents if this plan were to go into place. The other option B was to go Monday, Wednesday, the other half Thursday, Friday, off Friday to support distance learning. And then the final option was to have all kindergarten through 4th grade attend every day and support middle school and high school with distance learning. We did a survey, and the option that was supported by the greatest numbers, both from staff and the community, was option A. There has been some discussion that maybe we should discuss this option further. As an example, there was a suggestion that at the high school, kids go every day, every other week. so one half the kids would come in every day for a week, then they'd be off for a week, and then they'd come back in for a week. The idea behind that is that the level of learning is more complicated, deeper, and it requires, several days in a row to complete a concept or an exercise, a particular lesson. And so that was thought to be an idea. We talked about it in our administrative team, and the administrative team, gave us some feedback. There wasn't any opposition to that idea, although we haven't really explored that as an option. But the school district could support for the elementary and middle school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday for the other half, and the high school 5 days off, 5 days back. And so I think that would be a little more pressure on teachers to support the distance learning on the 5 days are off, because the other plan has some time in the middle. So if we were to do that, we would need to think about what the length of the school day would be and that kind of thing every day for teachers and students, so to structure some time to support that kind of plan. But it's something that the discussion was, yeah, we could support that. There was not an opposition from the administrative team. Then the other thing that we have in our plan is that any parent, a family, chooses to keep their children home, we're going to support them with the school district's learning plan, okay, remote learning plan. There won't be any penalty for any family that makes that selection, and we're gonna give it our best to support those children for whatever reason the family makes that selection to keep them at home if they want to.
Defining question there, is that whether we're on tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3?
Yes.
Any of the tiers, a parent could make the selection,
Right.
given the crisis, and it has nothing to do with the,
Right.
okay, and it has nothing to do with the yellow, orange,
State-
red, and purple
state
either.
red level or whatever.
Right.
Right. Yeah, the state level alert, the state color level alerts, the thing we would ask though, if a parent is going to do that, is that they don't just come in and out week to week. We would want them
No.
to commit to 9 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We give them another decision point and commit to the next 9 weeks, but it would be very difficult for us to manage,
Yeah.
anything other than that, because we're gonna try to set up a curriculum to support it with staff, and there's gonna be chaotic enough without at least that
Kids popping
stability.
in and out, right.
And we don't have any idea how many would take us up on that, or would want to do that, but we're going to support them if they want to.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's a remote learning option. Then the rest of the report is some guidance areas, but there's some important ones that are more, that I wanna highlight. The rest of it is, technical guidance. The first item that we have here is transportation. So, so far, the reason I say that is, let me get to the page here. Refer to the page first here. So, and I've added these reports, so for those that are listening, there has been attached, a number of attachments. The one I'm referring to now is a Reset, Restart Education Planning Guide for Ohio Schools and Districts. And there's a question checklist at the back of that document. And in the transportation section, there's a set of questions that say, are there bus drivers available to double or alternate routes? Do drivers have access to masks, gloves, and sanitation? Do students have access to masks, sanitizers upon entry? What is the impact, this is the question right here, what is the impact of a maximum seating of 1 per seat? So I'm taking that as state guidance, it's 1 per seat. The CDC, there's also in this document let's see if I Department. COVID-19 health and prevention guidance for Ohio K-12 schools on page 14. There's a section called transportation consideration, and within that section at the bottom there is a link to the Center for Disease Control, what bus operators need to know about COVID-19, and there's a link there. And so they're talking about social distancing on that bus and that link as well. So transportation, because of social distancing and other safety requirements, is limited from its original our original capacities. So given these restrictions, the bus capacity has been reduced. We're going to have one student per seat. If the students on the bus are from the same family, they can sit together on a seat. That'll help us. We still got to do some planning and detailing there about how that affects capacity. We'll do a health check on the bus. So there's some questions about, well, how are you going to do that? Well, it's real quick to do the temperature check. So we're going to do the temperature check, have the students sit on the bus in assigned seats, and once all the students are on the bus and at the school, the bus driver then will ask all the students on that particular route, are you exhibiting any of those symptoms? And if anybody says, she'll check it off, and then we'll follow up with that kind of feedback. So that's how we're going to do the health check on the bus. That way it's more efficient, it's going to take less time, and that kind of thing. We, you may know that the school district has a system to sanitize, a spray system. And it's really effective. The material that we use has like a 30-day life to it. We probably won't be using that particular product, but we're going to use a quick drying product, and the bus drivers have the equipment. We bought them an equipment, and they can spray down the bus. You've probably seen it on TV where there's this like atomizer and they're spraying surfaces and that kind of thing. We're going to spray the bus at the end of every route. And we found that material dries, and then we can run our next route. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll work that into the.
Mike, I had a question just about the temperature check. So that would be done before they board the bus.
As they're boarding the bus, passing the bus driver, they'll get a temperature check.
Now, if let's say a student would be over that 100.4 threshold.
They have to stay off the bus.
Okay. Now, would the parent have an option to come in and maybe have a nurse do, because sometimes some of those, the quick scan thermometers sometimes can read high. If you have an oral temperature, that might be acceptable. So are we gonna give people that option to?
Yeah, they'd have to make, we have limitations on visitation of the school, but we could make we could check again if the parent wants us to check again at the door.
I mean, but at that point, the parent would have to be responsible for their transportation in.
Right.
Just have to make arrangements to have our nurse or somebody do.
Right.
Like an oral temperature that way, okay.
However, if, that we aren't gonna abandon a kid either.
Right.
So.
Right.
That was gonna be kind of my question, what happens if a
Well,
kid
it'll
shows
be-
up,
we'll
their parent doesn't drop them off at their bus stop, they walk to their bus stop or something, and then they have a 100.5, and nobody's
letting them
there.
on the bus.
Are we gonna make them walk home?
We will, depending on their age,
Right,
we
so,
may let them walk home, but if we're concerned about their safety, the bus will stay until another person comes to be with them.
okay,
But that's age dependent. I mean, if
Right.
we've got older kids, we
Right.
can assume that they've got a key to get back in their
Right.
house and they
Right.
can take care of themselves.
right.
I mean, that's the way I raised my family. I would
Mhm.
think most people have that standard, whatever age that is. For me, for our family, it was 10. So, if there's and the child can tell us, can you get back home? Are you safe to get back home? In many cases, parents are by the bus route until the child gets on the bus and it leaves. That's been our experience most of the time. That's what's going on.
are we okay legally with that, with the bus driver taking their eye off of the road to take those temperature checks? Is that
No,
something we should check with
they're gonna
legal?
be stopped at a full stop, and as the kids get on, they do a temperature check and go to their seat.
Right, but, they're still, the bus drivers are watching
Right.
the road and,
Right.
the cars are going past, so
I
is
think
that
we're
something we
okay.
oughta run by legal, just to make sure?
Okay, no, cause the
The
stoplight's gonna be on.
stoplight should be out, so there shouldn't be any.
I mean, they're not,
Yeah.
they're gonna take the temperature before they even sit down, and so they have to sit down
That
before
one
they
should be
see
on.
you.
I didn't mean to think that the
Right.
bus would be moving,
Right.
it's just the bus driver is taking
Right.
their eyes off of the road and turning to take a temperature check, so.
I mean, if somebody wants to run that light, you can't stop them. So, and the bus driver is not, in a position to have to worry about it anymore. We have cameras on our
Right.
buses. So,
Is that your concern, Carol?
Yeah,
Okay.
just that minute taking your eyes off and,
right. But if a bus, as an example, bus comes up to a stop and the kids have to cross the highway, that bus driver is gonna pay attention to all the protocol
Mm-hmm.
till the student is around on the safe side of the bus with the lights on, then start letting them come on. They're gonna take care of it in that order. Okay, so that's basically, we need to get more information. We were thinking about having regions for bus routes, region A, region B, divide the school district. What we're going to do is, do it by alphabet, and so if we do it by alphabet, paying attention to kids that have different last names in the same family, we're gonna adjust for that, of course. But alphabet, that keeps the kids in the same family going to school on the same day, right? So, and, I think we've said somewhere between A and L is about half, right? And then after that is the other half. We're gonna get those lists, and then once we get a list and we assign, assuming we're going to, have one of these options, we are going to run the routes the same both days. So we don't have to worry about regions and balance and so forth. So you'll know which day you get on that bus, but the route, we're going to, think about that and adjust it, so if on one day we got a good balance on that bus and we're not over capacity and the next day we don't, we may change a bus route here or there. At the schools, we're going to get a feel for how many kids are in a class, and, if we have to, because we only have to do this once, we'll make adjustments to assignment of the teachers so that we balance out the number of kids in each class. And we'll have to work through that, the first few weeks, or days of school. We're gonna do, daily health monitoring. All it says, daily health monitoring will occur, if we were at tier 1 too, okay? I mean, we said that earlier, so I may need to revise this, but the same daily health monitoring. The, Baltimore Fire Department, Casey Farmer has sent me an email indicating he'd like to have his department team up with us for those daily temperature assessments in the morning, so he's got staff, and they'll join our staff at the schoolhouse door, and we'll do the temperature monitoring for those students that come to the schoolhouse door. Either walk or are brought by their parents.
So those that were on the bus will not need to be
They've already been scanned.
Right, so, and again, we're gonna practice social distancing, got a section here on wearing masks. I think that they should be required as much as possible. Keeping in mind that younger children, harder to monitor, harder to deal with, and so, but at any rate, we're still going to encourage at all levels wearing a mask. We are getting face shields, so if a kid can't wear a mask, there's a problem with a mask, we're gonna issue a face shield. But we do, this is, the mask is about the child and the people there, but it's also about protecting the adults, because if we don't protect the adults in the system and be diligent about that, and we get a bunch of teachers sick, you're not gonna be able to have school. And I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but without adequate staffing, you can't safely operate these schools. So we need to protect our adults against getting the virus, or they're going to be quarantined, and we're gonna have reduced staff. There isn't going to be enough substitutes. So it's really, this area is particularly important to deal with. And I know there's philosophical differences, but this is medically proven in terms of an area, and we really need to do that, or we aren't gonna be able to keep the school open if we get a bunch of people sick, the adults sick. It just won't work.
Dr. Johnson, have we thought about how we're going to deal with, the students that are refusing to wear a mask?
Well, personally, if a student refuses to wear a mask, that's just like a standard of a student bullying somebody and it's not a safe environment. A student, refuses to follow rules and it contributes to the health, welfare, and safety of the others. And again, we're not denying them an education. If people refuse to wear a mask, we're gonna support them with distance learning. That's my philosophical position on it. Because it's just far too important to just take it casually and make it a matter of, personal preference. This is a very serious issue, and people who refuse rules, I think there's a consequence for it. That's my feeling. That's what I think, that's the way we should operate the school district, for the sake of the safety and welfare of everyone. So no more than you're allowed to light up a cigarette in a public place, or a restaurant, or those kind of things. It's done for health, safety, and welfare, and that's what this is as well. So, another alternative is the shield, and another alternative is we'll support you with remote learning. So there's a section in here isolating students that show symptoms. So the guides say do not take kids to the nurse's station. So we're going to identify an area we can support the child who is sick, gets sick, and then figure out a way to get them home. And we'll support transporting them home if there's a problem transporting them home, but they've got to be kind of removed from the setting as soon as possible without risking the health and safety and welfare of the kids. And then this next section is back to the adequate staffing required, and I said in here that should there be an insufficient number of staff members, one morning we all wake up and there's a whole bunch of people that are sick and we can't open school. We would do it by school basis. Superintendent would use the calling system, like calling off for snow days and that kind of thing, and let people know that for that day we don't have sufficient staffing to operate school. I hope that doesn't happen very often, but it's really difficult to have the sufficient staff that we need. What we're going to do though is where we have to have coverage, we're going to ask teachers to cover for the class and compensate them for them, or reassign teachers as needed, and try to keep it open, taking those steps first before making that decision to have to close a school because of lack of staffing. There could be potential flare-ups. So number of staff and students come up positive, and we're starting to send people home and that kind of thing. We may close the school for sanitizing and a consult with the Franklin County Department of Health about what do we need to do to improve this, because we have a flare-up or there's a larger number. I don't want to pick a number. because it would, I think.
Franklin or Fairfield?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, thank you, Doctor. Fairfield, Health Department, thank you. Then we have limiting visitors, so unless there's an emergency, we're going to, parents need to pick up kids, call in, we're going to bring them to the door, try to limit, visitors to the building as well. And then, that seems to be a standard practice everywhere. And then there's several pages here of practices that we're going to follow. Take some time for everybody to understand them. And there's a section here calling for, again, preparing for short-term closures, and that we have a level of a flare-up, some other concerns that we might have, staffing and that kind of thing. And there's a section on operational considerations, just to highlight, one, custodial and maintenance staff will take extra precautions to clean their area. One of the things that we're going to do as we start today in terms of cleaning is that try to get a spray bottle and make sure that students are part of the solution. So when they start today, they'll clean their desk off. We want students to be part of that solution. Where it's age appropriate, I think most kids will be able to get into that routine. And then in addition to that, custodial and other staff will be doing some additional cleaning, bathrooms on a regular basis, entryways, areas that are high traffic and so forth. We have installed hand sanitizers throughout the district, and we've got a COVID-rated material in it. I think we have others, and we have 3 in this building. We've got them in every classroom just inside the entry door, at the entry of each of the schools, and common areas and use areas, just outside of locker rooms. I mean, you're gonna see them. They're already there, but they're in a number of places. So we purchased both the sanitizing and the dispensers, and then maybe at some point we should try to, I know that April's taking care of it, but we're making lots of expenditures to make sure in preparation for this, and we haven't even started school. And I think you referenced, April, during your report, that expenses were high at the end of the year because we were planning ahead of time for the eventual reopening. There's a section in here called recesses, and normally we think of recess as an elementary concept. And what we want to do is kind of think about that K through 12 and give people an opportunity to get outside the building and get fresh air, encourage instruction to occur outside. It might be some classes may be as much as the weather will permit. Take advantage of some of these outside open facilities that we have to have some instruction. It's gonna be a stressful environment, because we're gonna be really encouraging social distancing and some other rules and regulations. We're gonna have these masks on. So we want everybody, K through 12, to think about taking breaks and getting outside, taking a walk, social distancing, that not be under the pressure cooker of being inside that building all the time.
Well, it's generally, that's preferable too. I mean, we know that, the more you're outside, this is something that, it's closed, confined, situation, so if you're outside, there's less of that, being right on top of one another, so.
It'd just be really good in mental health, I think. Take the pressure off of, time on task and getting the work done, and, I don't mean to ignore that, but the emotional needs and the stress, we wanna create an environment where, and we wanna encourage, like you said, Dr. Walter, to have classes outside.
Are we gonna require face masks to be worn still if they're outside?
No.
No, okay, as long as social distancing's
As long as
occurring.
they maintain
Okay.
that.
Right, yeah, that's the purpose, get the break from all that. Right, so, yeah, social distancing outside and take the mask off and get a breather. Internet accessibility, we've done a an assessment, and we know by name and the number of people and their names who needs support there. So we have to figure out how, the problem is getting a kind of a reliable way to get it done while protecting our federal, system for our kids and safety on the internet. So some of these systems are not compatible with ours, and so we're still working through that, but I think we'll come up with a solution.
Just a rough idea, how many are we talking, like, I guess,
I don't know, less than 50, or what do you think?
Yeah, I can get the exact number in just a second,
It's not all
So
that
it sounds
high.
like fairly
Remarkably-
manageable, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's remarkably low.
Okay.
Yeah. I know we've got a tracking system about non-attendance, really, that is, really more about which kids are we taking care of remotely and paying attention to them. Non-attendance for the kids that come to school is important to us because it'd be an indication they're sick, and we wanna know that kind of thing, but, basically, now I've got, on terms of, if it's okay, I go to conclusions and recommendations. Pretty much, I mean, unless there's some question about the other part of the report, I was gonna go here. Okay, so the knowledge about how to manage and prevent and treat COVID-19 is expanding and evolving, we all know that. Guidelines may change as circumstances change and will cause the school district to make course corrections in its plan and operation. So it's gonna be an evolving kind of thing, but I think we know a lot here already. Conditions may change rapidly with the number of cases either increasing or decreasing, so that'll be a variable. This plan is designed in such a manner to be able to respond appropriately. Given these conditions, this is what the superintendent's recommending. Superintendent is recommending the following for the operation of the school district. Health safety issues presented by COVID-19. Partially open school at tier 2 when county risk level is at level 1, yellow. Close the schools to students at tier 3 and support students with the district remote learning when the county risk level alert is at level 2, orange, increased exposure and spread, level 3, red, very high exposure and spread, or level 4, purple, severe exposure and spread. It is further recommended by the superintendent that should COVID-19 cases be confirmed among the staff or student body, the district will close the schools temporarily at tier 3 and support learning remotely and involve the county health department to assist with decisions to reopen the school, again at tier 2. Further recommended that the Board of Education approve the adopted plan, related attachments as the school district's tentative reset, restart, reopen plan, and allow the superintendent to implement the plan. There are other options to consider. The following are other options for managing the operation in the district that the Board of Education may want to consider, but are not recommended by the superintendent of the school district. This first option. Partially open school at tier 2 when county risk level alert is at level 1. Yellow, active exposure and spread. And level 2, orange, increased exposure and spread. So we're gonna partially reopen an additional level, other than the superintendent's recommendation. Combined with close the school to students for tier 3, support students with the district's remote learning plan when a county risk level alert is at level 3, red, which is where it is now, very high exposure and spread, or level 4, purple, severe exposure and spread. Additionally, here's another option that could consider, but the superintendent's not recommending. Fully open the school at tier 1 when the county risk level alert is at level 1, yellow, active exposure and spread. So this one is moving to fully open, getting it a little higher, a little more liberal in terms of the process. Combined with Partially opening school, it's at tier 2 when the county risk level alert is at level 2 orange, increase exposure and spread. And then finally, close the school to students at tier 3 and support students with district's remote learning plan when the county risk level alert is at level 3, red, very high exposure, or level 4, purple, severe exposure and spread. There's another recommendation in here. This is what I understand. I've not totally confirmed whether it's been adopted by anyone. But at Fairfield Union School District and Bloom Carroll School District, I think, are selecting an option that says fully open at tier 1 when the county risk level alert is at level 1, yellow, and at level 2, orange, increased exposure. Combine that with partial opening school at tier 2 when the county risk level alert is at level 3, very high exposure and spread. And close the school only at tier 3 and support the students when the remote learning, with the remote learning plan when the county risk alert level is at level 4, purple, severe exposure and spread. So basically, I've got a recommendation that I'm comfortable with, and there are other ideas to think about, but not recommended by the superintendent.
One question, before we get into some of that is, like the, kids are going to Eastland and, Fairfield, how are they, are they gonna follow that schedule, or how are they?
Yeah, we would accommodate the students that are going to Eastland and Fairfield based upon Eastland's plan.
What's everybody think about? I guess, okay, Sean.
I will tell you, and I've talked to Dr. Johnson about this, I'm not supportive of the recommendation. I feel like the other options to consider, I think that's where we need to be. I don't know that I'm mentally ready to get to maybe where Fairfield Union and Bloom Carroll are, but our proximity to Franklin County is the thing that I can't get away from. Like, when are we going to ever, I don't know that we'll ever get to level 1 as long as this thing exists.
Well, and I.
Given what they've done to, given what the governor's done to us right now
Right.
with Fairfield County.
A lot of our numbers, I think, are skewed by
They are.
northwest county, so, yeah, I think that's a valid point. Yeah, I guess, one of my feeling is, at the outset of this, we were trying to, I look at it, we've always got 3 groups we're looking at. We're looking at the students, our faculty, staff, and our community. And I think at the outset, we were really putting a lot of weight on the community health and doing what's best for the community. I think as we get on with this, we're learning how to manage some of this. We've got some different ways to treat some of this. You had the American Academy of Pediatrics come out and say, it's important for these kids to be in school because, and it's not just the it's obviously educational stuff, but there's the social, the psychological factors that I think we need to, give some weight to as well. So I do think we need to start shifting some of this from, and obviously we're not gonna, ignore the community health concerns, but I think we need to start looking at what's best for, what's in the best interest of the kids and start giving that more weight than what we've done in the past. Again, this is just, kind of my opinion. So I guess, my preference is, I really don't wanna be closing the schools unless we're under a mandate from somebody. I think that's kinda how I feel on that, so that would I guess would put us at that level 4 purple, but that's just kinda where I'm at. If it's that big of a risk, then I think that at this point then we need to have somebody at the state level or the county level say, listen, we need to be closing schools. So that's kind of my take on that. So yeah, I think I'm more further along than I think what you're, and like I said, this is nothing against you, Maya. I know I know where you're coming from, cause I know that
Okay.
you've got a different level of risk than what we have, you know, as a board, so, and that makes complete sense to me, but I think that's where we need to kind of look and say, I think, and we represent the community, so, you know, I think most of what we're hearing is, we wanna be safe, but we also wanna get back to some semblance of normalcy, I think, so. Now, where that is, I don't know, I think it's somewhere in between, like you said, I don't know, you know, if I'm all the way at, you know, tier 1, you know, up to level, what was that, orange or whatever it was, or, yeah. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Well, no matter what you choose, we're gonna be wrong, or something, it's gonna.
Well, yeah.
We're not gonna please everybody.
No, you're right.
You know what I mean? I really wish, and maybe when it was time for us to vote for the people that should be making some of this guidance, I don't think there's very much guidance from the line, you know, they're just saying whatever the school board decides, I think is what I heard. And then also the county board of health, I don't think there's a whole lot of guidance there that I know of. I mean, you know, somebody's gotta take a stand and say this is what we're gonna do, whether it's right or wrong.
Well, I don't think I think that they want us, I think they want us to do that, basically, as a district. I
Yeah.
mean, that's so, I think that,
Politics, they're chicken.
They're wanting the liability to fall onto the school district instead of them.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know how we can go back to school full, like just say, okay, let's go back.
right.
Because the governor says we gotta have 6 feet apart, correct? Yes, no? We have to have social distancing.
It's what the CDC recommendations are.
These two documents reference 6 feet.
So, I mean, if you go on that premise alone, we can't have all of our kids back in our school, there's not enough room.
right. Can I interrupt just for a second, Sean? So, Fairfield Career Center, what they have done, they went in and they actually measured each room and have dictated that you can only put this number of kids in the room for that. I mean, I would imagine that we've done that, or we've at least looked at it.
We have.
Okay.
We're probably going to push, I mean, from the 6 feet rule, we're gonna push it in a couple of cases. You can't get that many desks in some of these classrooms, but, in terms of half the number of students that are assigned some of the classrooms, elementary and so forth, so we're gonna push that. Fairfield, has, indicated to us in their plan is that, juniors are going separate from seniors. So, that, I haven't heard anything different than that, but we would support that with transportation. I've talked to Adam about that already, so we can take care of them. So, but they have used those measurements, and, you know, they've got their curriculum is different, so a lot of active learning, and, so I think that's why they've chosen that.
Mr. Shook, I'm sorry.
Can we move that up? I guess I'm getting another message, I'm having trouble hearing it here. Can we move that up?
Can we put it in the center, or do we have an extension cord?
Should be charged enough.
Okay.
There's a plug right behind Jonathan.
Do we wanna put it there?
There's an extension cord in
Set
that
it
bag
right there,
too.
just plug it in back behind Sean.
Extension cord in here.
There you go. You can put it out in the middle too if you want. Sean, you can put it out in the middle. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I'm doing now. There you go. Okay.
Hopefully that'll.
that help? Probably. Who knows?
It should help.
I'll send out a,
It seems like it's picking up better audio.
Yeah, we'll do that from now on. Put it in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah, so where were we at? I'm sorry.
I apologize to Sean for jumping in there, but I just wanted to see if he,
I mean, are you saying not to go back?
No, I'm saying we need to get the kids back in school.
So you're talking about sending all of them all at one time?
He's not talking tier one, I don't think. You would be saying, are you saying tier one like everybody?
Tier one on level one, or on yellow.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
but you're not
But
saying
not
like orange or
partial.
red, are you saying tier one orange or red?
I haven't decided on orange. yet.
Okay,
I will be honest, like I'm teetering on orange, I don't know. But
Yeah.
again, I go back to looking at the numbers today for Fairfield County.
and they were,
We had, over a 3-day period, we had 2 hospitalizations and 0 deaths, and we're in red right now.
yeah,
2 hospitalizations, 0 deaths, and we're on red.
and I'm not even sure.
I'm not
tried
sure
to-
how we're getting to orange and yellow anytime soon in
Yeah.
Fairfield County.
Yeah,
And that's my biggest concern, is we are so close to Franklin County, I don't know how we're gonna get into these orange and yellows. So, in my opinion, when they get us into the orange, that's a huge step forward for us, and that's where my mind is trying to think, at that point, should we be in what we've called tier one, which is all kids back at school? Because we're in 3 right now, and there were 0 deaths over the last 3 days. 2 hospitalizations, 26 new cases.
It sounds like there's still a lot of more talking that needs to be done before we decide what we're gonna do or put in. I mean, I don't know if you're.
well, I think we need to try to, I know people are getting antsy, they wanna know, so I think we wanna try to get, something hammered out here relatively soon, so. I guess, if we're telling, well, we're gonna have to, either vote on, this or something, but just say, we know what, Dr. Johnson's comfortable with, and I'm not speaking for Sean, but I think he and I are saying, I think.
We're a little further along.
A little further
We're
along,
a little
guess
more
that's-
liberal, if
So I
you
guess
will,
we gotta figure out where everybody,
where there's a comfort level. And, we can talk, I've talked to community members, you can get out there and talk to community members, get their input. I told Dr. Johnson, maybe we could even have a special meeting on the 28th, which is 2 weeks from now, where would approve whatever that would look like. I know some Board of Educations aren't approving until their August meeting, right? With their, now it's early in August, it's before they actually start school,
Right.
but, and I understand that puts parents in a difficult situation, but we're all in a difficult situation.
Right.
This isn't easy for anybody. What you said is 100% right. Whatever decision we make is
Somebody's-
gonna be wrong by somebody.
But we do
Somebody's
have-
gonna be unhappy, and I understand that.
But
I
we do
get it.
have that option for people that are uncomfortable to do the distance learning.
They
So that's-
absolutely do.
That's always.
So at the
and
end of
we're
the
gonna-
day, if somebody's unhappy with I'll say the liberalness that we've taken, they absolutely have that option, and we are fully set up to support them in an online environment.
what does that look like, Dr. Johnson, as far as the teachers, as far as the instructional staff? Obviously, if we go to a model that brings the students back into school, and then we have some that choose to stay at home and distance learn, and I hate to use this word, but how does that burden that instructor? As far as time that they've spent, they're gonna be in school the whole day. Does that put an extra burden, I'm gonna use it again, an extra burden on that instructor or on those instructors?
Yeah, certainly would. So one idea is, if there's enough students at any grade level or in the school system that are at home, and class size gets smaller, then we might be able to get, based upon choice of teachers and strength of teachers and so forth, them to support online a group of students. at a certain number. And then the remaining teachers support the kids on a daily basis or part-time basis or whatever. But we don't really know how many people aren't going to come to school. And I don't think, you know, and I think that'll be a moving target. It might be that people say, I'm gonna try to do this at home, and then after a while say, I'm gonna, you know, change my mind. That's why I wanna go to the 9-week thing.
Mhm. Which I fully support.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I agree with
I don't think it's fair to teachers for having the kid to be
Have a
in
kid
2
jump
weeks,
in.
out 2 weeks,
Right.
Yeah.
especially at the high school level within the kid could potentially manipulate the schedule. Yeah,
Right.
fully support that.
So, I don't know how many would take that option over a 9-week period to remain at home. I just don't know that, and I don't think we would know that until there, people are having to make the decision.
Right, cause it's a moving target still.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But let's assume, you know, that, not many do that at home, and there is some distance learning. The burden to support distance learning for those kids that are at home would be not as much if a whole bunch of kids did it. And so I think it just depends. Certainly wouldn't wanna have, you know, a large percent of the kids in any one classroom. It's easiest to think about that at the elementary school level, staying at home, and then the teacher's trying to teach the kids on a part-time basis, wherever tier we're in, and, support the choice of the family to be at home. That would be quite a lot of stress on teachers.
I mean, based on where I'm at, I'm just writing down some things. To me, when we're yellow, we should be tier 1. When we're red, I guess potentially tier 2. Obviously, when we're purple, we should be tier 3. I think where I'm a little just trying to wrap my head around stuff is when it's orange, and what we should be. Whether we should be at a tier 2 or a tier 1.
I'm almost, I'm on page 17,
Mhm.
and I kinda look at that bottom one, and I'm almost like, okay, tier 1 yellow, tier 2 would be orange and red, and then tier 3 would be purple. So it's like taking that red from the bottom. I guess that's kinda, to me, it kinda, I guess it splits, it's a little more open.
I
Because
just
we've
have
got
this
red,
fear of, are we ever going to be yellow?
yellow, I know.
That's my fear with where we sit. Are we ever going to be yellow? And if we're never yellow, we're never gonna get the
Get
kids.
to a full,
Right.
right. Well, that's the question, what are we comfortable with?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like in between all of these,
Okay.
so, you know, I'm in the protected group here, so, you know, I can see we've got grandparents bringing kids in, sending them home, you know, I'm kinda,
You know, it all falls back to what Sean said. I mean, we're not
We don't
gonna
know.
win. I mean, there's not a win on this. That's, you know.
And what would, you remember a ballpark percentage when you did the survey for all the parents? You know, how many parents filled those out? And how many people,
So we never surveyed the parents, we never got to a point where we had this kind of details
Not
just
this.
to give a choice on, you know, these combinations that we're talking about right now. What we did survey staff and parents on was the different options for tier 2, part-time, going to school part-time. And the parents and the staff I wouldn't say that it was a majority vote, but an overwhelming number of parents and staff wanted to, if we were gonna go to tier 2 part-time, Monday, Tuesday, half the kids, Wednesday off for support, deep cleaning, Thursday, Friday, the other half. That's the extent of the survey. We are getting ready to do a survey around transportation. We're gonna get some more information about that and use that information in the study. I suppose we could come up with, a survey about these different options. Which ones do you wanna survey?
I mean, really, it's the orange and the red is our, I mean,
Mhm.
tier one, I think yellow, tier one, you know, that's, and obviously, you know, tier three is when when we've got that, you know, really high, I mean, basically that's where the, you know,
Mhm.
governor or health department saying you need to close. It's just that tier two, is that orange and red, or is that just red, and we've got tier one and two, or tier one is yellow and orange, that's,
Right.
orange is the,
I agree wholeheartedly. I think orange and red are where yeah. Because again,
it's
Franklin,
red tier two.
Franklin County's in red, just like us.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
and Franklin County's not going to purple anytime soon.
no.
They're not.
Mhm.
He will not do that.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So I don't know that we will ever get to purple.
Let's hope not.
So you're thinking if it's yellow, we go back just everybody goes back.
Yes.
If it's red or orange,
That's where I'm,
So where I'm at is, so if it's yellow, we are back.
yeah,
Okay? Absolutely. If it's purple, we're fully online. If it's red, where we're at right now, we would be partial,
that tier two,
where we would be the Monday, Tuesday,
yeah.
and then the Thursday, Friday. Where I haven't landed personally is what we would do when we're orange. Whether I would feel comfortable having everybody back in school, which is the way it sounds like a couple of districts are going, or whether I would want to be in that partial Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday thing when we're orange.
Well, and obviously,
That's the one I haven't landed
this
on
is, I mean,
personally.
obviously, this is a moving target, we talked about that. I mean, how much, and this is maybe a, you know, a logistical issue, but how much, if we start in and do 9 weeks, you know, get through that first, and then, I mean, would that be too much of a change? Like, I mean, let's say we start at, you know, it's tier one is yellow, tier two is orange, red, tier three would be purple, and we start that way. And then at 9 weeks, or at the end of the first semester, or the first, you know, the second 9 weeks, we're like, you know, we move orange and yellow is tier one, you know, tier two stays as red, and tier three stays as purple. So, I mean, is that how much of an issue would that cause? I mean, I don't know, would that be a big logistical issue for us? I mean, if we would just change,
no.
it didn't seem like it would be.
Yeah.
So you're saying if orange and red, we're going back partial, yellow.
For now.
Right, and yellow, we're going back to full-time.
Right.
And purple, we're closed, but they're probably not gonna do that anyway.
But if we get at the end of the first 9 weeks and it looks favorable, you know, yeah.
I mean, nothing's exact, right, in this whole
Exactly.
thing. I mean,
Right.
we've been around this thing now for,
Yeah.
you know, since March-ish, and we've seen the whole gamut. I mean, at one point, in April, we were told masks didn't really do anything, and yet we're all sitting here with a mask on. So, all of this, I feel bad, because all of this is subject to change tomorrow. We don't know what's gonna come out tomorrow, so we need, obviously, you know, our staff, the school board, our community to be extremely flexible and change agents when it comes to this, because, you know, we're only as good as the information we're being given, and there's a lot of questions on the information we're being given.
You know, and make no mistake about it, you know, the thing that it's hard is if your kids don't go back to school, then, you know, how's the parents getting them watched or going to work and all those things, so all those things are,
Factor in.
you know, are in our head, you know, I just wanna make sure that, you know, the people that listen are knowing it just ain't one of those, you know, as we talked here for over an hour, but, you know, it's something that, you know, I wrap my head around trying to trying to see, you know, what is best, you know, what is best for our kids, our safety of our kids, our teachers, you know, our bus drivers, you know, our workers, our employees, and
And
it's
our
tough.
community members, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it
absolutely.
goes back to what Carol said a bit ago, right? Where like, my kid is going to, if my kid's gonna come home, my wife's gonna come home, she's a teacher in the district, right? They're gonna come home, I see my parents, she sees her parents, like these things, all of these things start going through your head about I'm gonna say impacted
Impact.
group, what did you call,
No.
you're not impacted, but you're, well, I'll say high risk,
High
you're probably
risk.
not high risk, but my parents are extremely high risk, right? So you worry about that, they live in this community, I mean, how's this all gonna shake out? But I know going through those last 2 months with my kids at home, the lack of social interaction that they had, it drained my youngest.
And that's where
And that's where I'm struggling, it drained my youngest.
Well, and that's where something, like I said, the American Academy of Pediatrics has come out and it isn't just the educational, it's the psychological, it's the social stuff that the kids are missing, and that's important, you know.
Yeah.
At all ages, but sometimes maybe even more so, like you said, in high school, I think at that age, it's, you know, it is a lot of the psychological and the social development.
And your recommendation is yellow or red down, we're going part-time, right?
No.
Orange.
Orange,
Orange and red.
orange and red.
And my recommendation is orange and red, and purple are remote learning.
Remote one, the tier 3.
And yellow is tier 2.
Yeah.
Just because of the descriptors that are behind those colors are, and, currently at red, there is a mask order for the public to be out. I don't think you can go in a restaurant yet. You know, and so we have those standards in terms of the business community, yet at red, we're willing to take the kids back to school. That's my concern, just because of the descriptor.
You can still go into restaurants.
Can you?
Yeah, they
I was
just,
in a
what
restaurant last
most of
night.
what I've seen, they usually will have you have to wear your mask unless you're seated. Anytime you're in line.
Yeah, you
or
wear a
getting out.
mask in to
Yeah.
sit down, and then we could take our mask off,
Yeah.
and then we had to put it back on.
That's how I
to
think
go to
most
the
of them are
restroom.
managing that, yeah.
Yeah,
They're at 50% at red.
50% occupancy. I mean, to me, the occupancy was no different than what it had been before.
Okay.
We could sit at a table and could set as a group of 6 at a table, and yeah,
No social distancing.
the same as, I mean, honestly, it was the same as it had been
Okay.
a month ago.
A month ago.
You know, or whatever. I mean, there was
Whatever the other color was.
whatever. Yes. Yep.
Okay, going back and forth in my head, if, under the options to consider, the first one, where we're partially open at level 1 and 2, which would be the yellow and the orange. I realize right now we're in red, so we wouldn't be starting in August, but if that goes down to orange, we can partially open. That gives us the ability to see what that looks like and how that works in the very beginning of the year, and then fully open once it goes back to, you know, that lower level. So maybe seeing how that works, because I think we're gonna probably at some point need to see how we function at that partial level with the yellow and the orange.
Do we know? Does anybody what the parameters are to get down to yellow?
No,
Because
don't
there's
know how
yellow,
we got
there's
up to
yellow
red.
counties out there right now, right?
Yeah, and some of it, I know your criteria to get bumped up is a certain amount of cases, and I honestly don't even know, you know, for sure, but
Because there's
I don't know what the time span, if you have a drop, I don't know how long what your time span is. Like you said, we had 0, you know, so I don't know how long, how many days you have to have a lower number or a drop, you know, before you get to go back out? Is it 2 weeks? I don't know. I haven't seen what the criteria for bumping you back down is. I don't know off the top of my head.
It's 7 variables, but I don't
Yeah.
know the numbers and how they.
And I don't know
Interact.
how often that's reassessed
It's
either.
kinda like a
That's-
multivariate, kinda like the state test scores for school districts.
So I've got a
Multivariate.
question to, the transportation. We're limited to how many students we're allowed to have on a bus, right? So to have all of them on a bus isn't something we're allowed to do, right? Or am I,
At this point, I haven't heard anything other than you can't load up the bus, so, yeah,
Right.
well, we'd have to double
I
routes.
mean, we obviously can't go buy a bunch of buses to accommodate bringing them all in.
Well, that would only factor into tier 1 though, right?
Mhm.
Cause everything else would be, tier 2 would be the split, you know.
Tier 2 would be, but it's
Yeah.
where, it's what color we're at. Like, then it goes back to the color thing, and it's what
Yeah.
color you're at as far as where we would wanna place that color on the tier, or the tier on the color.
Right.
I'd like to also, once we get done talking about this, which we don't know how long that's going to be, but at some point tonight, I would at least like to hear from Janet. I think Janet's on there, what she's hearing about athletics, cause I know that's obviously a very hot topic as well in the community is, hey, what's happening with athletics? So at some point, if maybe Janet can enlighten us after we get done talking about that, I'd like to hear from her on that.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm struggling with whether we could really have whether we'd really have an answer tonight, and I don't know if that hurts the district, not having an answer tonight, or not having something where
Well, we talked about that today, and, you know, we were thinking, well, we really need to have an answer to move forward with the transportation survey that we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but we've modified that. So we're gonna go out and be able to get, that's the area that's causing us the greatest concern. What does that look like? And getting some, you know, and I think in our transportation survey, we are going to ask if they're gonna stay home. Right? That's our
Yeah.
top.
So one of the very first questions is, because of the situation, I'm choosing the remote learning 100% of the time, but still supported by the district. What we were afraid with the transportation survey is that if we do go back in tier 2, then, what rotation schedule would we have? Because as a parent, if I need to schedule Monday and Tuesday, I might be able to do that, One in-law each day watches
Right.
them, and then, I can handle it, the rest, that kind of thing. But if I'm going back a week, and then a week off, then that's completely different from a parent's perspective about transportation. So
We're
we
talking
thought
about
that a lot of
secondary
parents
school.
might say,
Right.
no, I don't need transportation, but then if we, gave them, then they might change it. And then that would completely throw off the transportation plan, so. We're wanting to try to get that by the end of July, that information from parents by the end of July, which would give Adam about a week to
Yeah.
put together the routes and then a couple days to practice them and that kind of thing.
So, I mean, this whole idea of a week on, week off at the high school, if we could come to some conclusion that that's a good idea or not a good idea, and then, structure the survey to support high school under that option, and the elementary and middle school on the 2-day, 1 day off, 2 day on, that would help a lot, right?
Well, so what do you guys think about the high school, letting them do the 5 on, 5 off?
So we're talking by grade, is that what?
no, this is
That'd be the whole high
this
school.
is the entire high
High
school,
Okay, the entire.
5 days on,
Yeah.
and then 5 days off.
Would they would still get remote learning
Yeah.
though on that?
Yeah,
On
they're
the
off the
off-
week,
on the
they're
off
still
week.
gonna have, they're still gonna have the curriculum.
And I think some of the
week,
thought
but-
was on that, like, some of these things are, are project based, so if they're working on, something in an ag class, or they're working in art class, they've got some project stuff that, I think it's hard to do 2 days and then go 3 days off versus maybe do 5 days. You can make some headway on it and then do you know, some of the other, you know,
Right.
ancillary stuff, you know, on that off week.
Right, cause that, and that's what we're doing at Fairfield. I'll have my juniors for 1 week,
Mhm.
then I'll have my seniors for a week,
Mhm.
back to juniors for a week and so forth, so that's what we're doing there.
Now, would you look at doing that by family still? So, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if they've got 2 kids
Yeah.
that are, you know, a freshman and a senior, are they gonna?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Are they,
Oh, yeah.
are both kids gonna be in that
They're-
week?
and
From a
they're in the
parenting
same-
standpoint, you know, cause then the senior goes, cause the senior's probably gonna drive the freshman, right?
Right.
And then they're off weeks, and then you got this weird thing happening for parents, so,
So, yeah, we'd look at that alphabetical issue again.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I mean, so does, you
So
guys
you'd have half the kids going one week and the other half going the other week.
At the high school
At the
level.
high
High school level.
And at the middle and elementary, we would do this other variable. We have to get more information, because back to what you said, Bill, you know, what does this mean in terms of serving 2 masters? You know, classroom versus remote, and how big is that? And, you know, we get some more information, we can think about what that means for us.
But nobody's really got a lot of heartburn with doing that option, I guess, here's what we're saying, right?
No,
You
I don't
guys-
have a lot of
No.
heartburn with it.
Okay.
Can support
And I
that.
put it in the report, so.
Just so everybody's kind of aware, like I was looking at not the districts, but the counties, and I'd say about, out of the 88 counties, probably, it's between 30 and 40 are yellow right now. So they are, if they were, you know, under what we've tried to say, they would be fully open. And then you've got about, maybe another 20 that are in that orange status. And then you've got 10 or so that are red right now. And it's typically the counties around Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. So, just as you're trying to gauge, like, could we ever get to yellow? I don't know. For us being as close to Franklin, that's my only concern. Anyway.
It'd be nice to know what the criteria is for each one of those levels, or how, like you're saying, Sean, how do we get to yellow, or where does that fit into the?
Because here's the thing, if we look at it, Bill, and it's like we'll never get to yellow.
Right.
Well then, should we talk about orange being something where we send kids back to school full time? Which is what it sounds like a couple of other districts potentially are doing. So I think that's something that we need to know. Is what it would, yeah.
So is Carroll and Fairfield Union official? That's definitely what they're
That-
doing, or?
Yeah, I don't know that the board actually adopted those, but, that's, what's in this report is the matrix that they're on.
So I think they're probably looking at somewhat how, I mean, we're not gonna get to, it's gonna be awful hard to get the yellow.
For us,
Yeah.
for Fairfield County. Yeah. I know I said 2 weeks from now, but, you know, do we wanna take this out of,
Yeah,
for
that's,
approval?
it's in the middle of the whole block of stuff,
Right.
so obviously,
And then meet next Monday, or like give us a week to,
It's up to you.
what do you guys wanna do?
I think we need to get a survey out before we come back and meet.
Survey of these different levels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we
we're trying
ask
to look
them,
up why
what-
they put it.
Well,
What if-
I'll be in Gulf Shores, Alabama, but I will obviously zoom in like Janet and Turner are doing right now, and Marcus.
I mean, maybe, it seems to me like it's that orange and red, so maybe we put it out to people that way of, what is your feeling on, orange? Should orange be a tier 1, or should it be a tier 2?
Right.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
I think that's the big, it's really, where does the orange fall, really, I think, I mean,
Yeah, so there's no really, I mean, yellow, open all the time, that's another area that's different than the superintendent's recommendation.
Correct.
But it sounds like that's what you wanna do. purple is not an issue, if
It's,
you're
that'd be,
saying
yeah.
we have to do remote totally at purple. And so you want us to survey, shall we have, orange at full-time or,
Mhm.
part-time?
Yeah,
And red, should it be full-time or part-time? Both those questions. You wanna ask both those, don't you?
Definitely
Red
the
or-
orange question.
red, I think, is red gonna be at a part-time versus?
Red
Red's
part-time.
part-time, not in
Purple
the,
closed,
in the,
Okay.
yellow's the question, or not yellow.
Orange.
Orange is the question.
Okay, so
should
you're-
orange be tier 1 or tier 2? And then should red be
Tier 2 or 3.
tier 2 or tier 3?
Right,
I think that's the
Yep.
ones I think we're having issues with.
Yep, I would agree 100%.
okay,
So that's,
we'll
you know,
structure that,
yeah.
alright.
Knowing, and I think it needs to be stated in the survey, knowing that if
This is what
there's
tier
any
1,
uncertainty by the parent, that we are absolutely advocating and supporting full online learning
yes.
if the parent
Right.
selects that for their student
Mhm.
for a 9-week period.
Okay. Figure out a survey.
When do we wanna reconvene then? I know you wanna do it
So
sooner
we're gonna
rather
do,
than
we're
later.
gonna do 2 surveys. I think we need more than a week.
Okay,
The 2 surveys, I mean, we're pretty secure in having enough information with this week on, week off, the high school and the option, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday for the other half for middle school, high school. And then the other survey, cause I don't wanna send them both at the same time, too much information.
okay.
The other survey is describing, the tiers, and shall we be at 2 or 3 at the orange, or shall we be at 2 or 3 at red? That's what you just said.
One or two at orange.
1 or 2 at orange,
2
2 or
or
3
3
at red, okay,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
So you're thinking the 28th or 27th,
I don't
the
know.
following Monday, or do you wanna?
How fast do we get survey responses? Do we do pretty well?
We only have about 100 people that normally answer them anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, they tend to do it in the first day or 2.
Yeah.
I bet we get over 150, maybe even over 180 this time.
I think the biggest one when we had the 3 options for what schedule they wanted in a yellow or tier 2, there were about 440.
Okay.
But a lot of them weren't necessarily answers to the questions, they were just comments and feedback that they wanted to share.
That's fair.
So, I guess to answer the question, we could get it done in a week. Both of them. Get the transportation one out first and this other one out second.
So we want, look at something like mid next week maybe?
Okay.
Is
So
that,
there's an opportunity to gather the info and share and
Yeah.
have us be able to consume it.
that would be like the 22nd.
Is that Wednesday?
Yeah, that's a Wednesday, or does that work? And like I said, I think that can be Zoom, I don't think that has to be in person, we can just do that as Zoom.
I will be zooming.
You'll be Zooming, I know, yeah.
I just asked that it not be on Friday, because that Friday I'll be driving home from Alabama.
So some of you
that would
really,
just be.
Just let Dylan drive.
It's Peyton.
Oh.
I had to think about it for a second too. I was like, wait a minute, I could. No, it'll be Peyton. Sorry,
is everybody in town that 22nd? Are
Well,
you at-
except for me, but.
Yeah. you're
I
in
am,
town.
yeah.
Okay,
I won't be here, but
okay,
I don't think I need to go for that.
right.
So we wanna plan to do the 22nd then?
Right, do they need to have a resolution, or we can just do it?
We just have to get it
Okay.
out. And
Yeah, but I think we do need to pull, so we're gonna have to pull out,
B, correct?
yeah, so we're gonna pull out D from this. So that will not be in this, in the rest of it. The only, and then, one other question I did have on and we said for the calendar, so we were saying August 12th, student first day of school, is that assuming either tier 1, whatever we want, is that gonna be the students are gonna be here, or is it gonna be the following Monday they'll be
Yeah, we
reporting?
decided the following Monday would be, so the 12th is in the calendar is the first day, but we're gonna do some remote kind of things.
Okay,
And actually get the schedule going in the schools on the 17th.
on the 17th, okay, so I think that was something we wanna make sure we kinda, so
Yes,
August 17th
Unless we do come back everybody.
Yeah, unless we get to
everybody,
yellow.
And we'll do
Yeah.
like past year school calendars that we've always done.
Mhm. If somehow we were to get to yellow, right? Or if orange and, yeah, we get to
Right.
orange and orange is,
But I'm not
And-
optimistic about that.
Right.
orange is the new black.
So August,
Okay.
most likely August 17th would be the first day that students would be in the building, is what I think, yeah, okay.
Do we wanna get an update from Janet real quick before we leave this area? Like, before we leave this section?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah, I mean,
Hey, do I get you wanted an update?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, put out, a new report, line 9, stating that weeks as if virtual part are normal on August 1st.
Getting feedback.
Testing was a main out that realized that students were going to be traveling, and if the traveling don't really call out what that means, whether they need to out of state, whatever it is for parents.
Janet,
Janet, you're breaking up.
Janet, so
Yes.
there's a feedback going on, I don't know if you have some speaker feedbacking through when you're talking, but there's feedback and your voice is interrupted.
I think it's because I can hear myself through the first speaker.
Right.
yeah.
Do you have a headset?
I do not, I'm not sure that would, all want somebody's phone and broadcast it.
I was gonna say.
What if we have her
could
call
she-
in, can we have her call
Oh, she's calling me.
in? Okay, I was gonna say, let's call, yeah.
The only problem is.
You have to turn your mic off or something.
There we go.
Okay, I'm just gonna exit the
That works.
video call, does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially August 1st, will be the first day of sports as per Ohio High School. They're going to start as normal, but I'm sure they're going to be providing feedback as we go along, and that can be turned around at any point in time. Testing wise, there's a current mandate out through July 15th that any teams traveling do have to be COVID tested and then PCR tested every 4 days in follow-up, or every 2 days depending on how long the trip is. So we are hoping to get more information if that is to continue after the 15th. There was a large basketball tournament in Columbus, so we think that was put in place to kind of help manage that piece. But I've been in contact with the Fairfield County Department of Health because I'm a little concerned that is also a precursor for the fall. So the feedback from the Fairfield County Department of Health is they don't have any information at this time, other than that they somewhat agree that COVID testing will play a part. They just don't know what part as of yet. So we're in a holding pattern in regards to that. In the meantime, since we are in red, we are no longer hosting any outside tournaments. We have pulled back no camps, youth camps, day team camps, any activity for our athletes will be held on campus, and we will be following the restrictions that are already put in place. So we are still continuing to monitor. We're taking temperatures. We are, collecting information in regards to rosters so we know who is where and when in case something does come up. Not familiar with any of our own athletes that have tested positive, or in the last 6 weeks at this point, we haven't had any even family members of an athlete that potentially had or was suspected or tested positive for COVID. So we're kind of moving as status quo. We were spreading the teams out so they're not having a whole lot of overlapping practice times. They're definitely not using the same spaces. So we are just in a holding pattern, waiting for the fall. More information about fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Nope.
Okay,
Nope, appreciate the update.
alright, thanks.
Alright.
Alright, so, are we good on that?
So the question, let me make sure I'm clear. The question on the survey is gonna be, if it's yellow, we're gonna go back to school all the time.
We're not gonna ask a question.
We're not gonna ask that
We're not
question.
gonna ask
No.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's orange, are we part-time or full-time?
Correct.
Correct.
And if we're red, are we part-time or full-time?
No.
If it's
Yeah.
red,
Are
are we,
First part-time or closed?
yeah.
Okay,
Remote.
If it's
learning.
red, are we part-time
Or remote learning?
or remote?
Yeah,
red or.
We already know when we get to purple, we're remote.
yeah, that's a,
Yep,
I think an executive order probably at that point or
I
something.
do believe it would be at that point, wouldn't it? I think,
Oh.
who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't think that, yeah, that's gonna,
But if it does get there, we've gotta, you're gonna make a decision to help
Right.
us, so.
Mhm.
So real quick, I just wanted to tell you, I looked up, so DeWine said the levels are determined by 7 data indicators.
right.
Mhm.
And then to be at level 3, the county has triggered 4 or 5 of those indicators, and I can read those to you later, but.
Okay.
But see,
so-
but I don't
You
know.
could, I think you could move in and out.
Yeah,
pretty
but I don't know how
easily.
long, I'm not sure what the time frame is. I don't know if they
Yeah.
ever said it's 7 days, it's 14 days, you know,
Yeah.
that's what I've never really, I haven't been able to find it myself. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time looking for it,
Mhm.
but, yeah.
Okay.
Get everything out of your room and bring it downstairs.
Janet, go on mute. She's like,
All right. Okay, so what we have is,
Go text.
so do I have a motion for new business other with the exception of, what did we say that was, B?
B.
So we'll remove B, and then everything else, which would be a remote learning and policy updates, the school calendar, and I think that was it, right? Oh, no, the
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 fees.
handbooks, and the
Handbook.
did anybody have,
So you,
I guess, do we want anything on the handbooks? Mr. Turner, do you have anything on the handbooks that we should be aware of?
I'd say, he's asleep.
Mr. Turner?
Mr. Turner, can you hear us?
I
Yes.
hear you. Okay, anything on the handbooks that you wanted to bring our attention to or anything?
Nothing really new. We changed the beginning. And I know you're getting feedback from me.
Nothing new.
Not too bad, okay.
yeah, we're good.
And then student fees, anything on those? Mike, did you want to hit anything with the fees or anything?
No, I don't
Okay,
have.
and then our agreement with OU for the college credit plus, so, all right, do I have a motion for that with the exception of B?
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion by Sean Hookrowd, seconded by Bill Moore to approve new business other excluding B. Ms. Boyer?
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
Ms. Cato?
Yes.
Mr. Hookrattle?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
And Mr. Shook?
Yes.
All right, item 9, executive session. I do believe we have a request to go into executive session. And this was for compensation of public, is that correct, Mike? Compensation or,
Yeah.
okay,
A7?
yeah, A7. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Sean Shook, seconded by Carol Cato to go into executive session for the items stated above at 8:55. Ms. Boyer?
Ms. Cato?
Yes.
Mr. Hookrattle?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Shook?
Yes.
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
Alright, so just so the
Oh,
folks,
yeah.
publicly are aware, we're actually gonna get off of the YouTube, get
Right.
off of Zoom. And, because all we do when we come out of this is have our next regular Board of Education meeting
There won't-
conversations.
Nothing will be voted on after,
Nope.
aside from motion to come out of executive session and to adjourn.
To adjourn, yep. So,